Welcome back to another episode of Two Fans, 12 Rings. Jeff here. Brad, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Pretty good weekend here, and just getting back to the pod week of the championship here in college football. Just exciting time.
How was your Christmas?
I had a tremendous Christmas. The vibes were good. The family time was awesome. Got lots of good gifts. Everything about it. Steelers get a W. Luka goes for 50 and 15. I mean, wasn't really much I was missing.
Yeah. You had kind of talked about your Christmas experience last week as we were signing off the pod. And you had kind of sent me a Snapchat of your grandma's house, and man, you were not kidding.
She's wild.
That place was wall to wall.
Yeah, that's what she does, man, all year, 365. She's already looking for lists right now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, mine was busy too. Just lots of family, different places, and we did a whole day on my wife's side as far as like her extended family. We did pretty much one full day of my side, and then we did her immediate family the following day, along with me and my wife, our kids' Christmas as well. So. And then took an extra day to kind of bum around the day after Christmas, which would have been Tuesday. Yesterday. Yeah, just kind of bum around, not do much. So, yeah, watched a lot of football this weekend. I was lucky enough to kind of catch a lot of the big games. Let's start with the Steelers. Steelers played the Bengals, and the Bengals were relatively hot coming into this game, and the Steelers were quite the opposite. But Mason Rudolph gets to start, and I was kind of critical, saying like we'd seen Mason Rudolph, and I thought we both had kind of agreed that Trubisky was probably the better option. But Rudolph looked really good, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a bipolar football team. I mean, we just don't know what we're going to get from week to week. Consistency is what we're looking for. I believe that we've shown that we have the roster that consistent play out of the quarterback can get us wins. I mean, games with multiple passing touchdowns. Rudolph has 6 and 11 starts. Kenny has 1 and like 24 starts or something like that, or whatever the stat is. It's just, it's weird, man. Maybe Kenny's just not the answer. I don't know where the Steelers are going to move forward with the quarterback position. Kenny released a statement that he feels like he can play this Sunday. Steelers already announced Mason Rudolph starting against Seattle. But, yeah, it's always nice to see him get a win. Not really much on the TJ Watt Defensive Player of the Year campaign going around publicly, but he's just leading the league in sacks again, tackles for loss, interceptions from an edge. I mean, he's just amazing to watch. So to see George Pickens go off for $195 and 2 touchdowns, I didn't know that he had more receiving yards than Devontae Adams this season. That was kind of crazy to see. I mean, I loved what I saw, at a Christmas party. A lot of people want to maybe poke fun at you while your team's on and stuff like that. But, I mean, it was straight bell to ass from the get-go against the Bengals. So it's always nice to get a division win like that. And who knows, maybe we sneak around into the playoffs. You lose 3 straight games to the Cardinals, Patriots, and Colts, and you still turn around and, here you are at 8-7. So could kick ourselves in the butt for not taking care of business when we should have, but it's good to get a win. Close out our last home game with a W, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, so you guys are currently 9th. Colts obviously hold a tiebreaker over you guys as far as head-to-head.
I think there's like 4. It's like the Colts, the Texans, the Jaguars. All 3 of the AFC North teams, we only beat the Titans, so all 3 of those AFC South teams hold the tiebreaker.
Well, who are your next 2?
We're at Seattle, which should be an interesting game, and then I don't know how people view it or not, but we're at the Ravens the final game. We beat them the first time we played them. Obviously, in division games are a little different, but if they beat the Dolphins this weekend, they clinch the number 1 seed. I don't know if people rest starters and then go into a bye. I don't know what they plan on doing, but there is a chance that we play Ravens backups, but it's at Seattle, at Baltimore is the last two games.
Yeah, I would imagine you would not see Lamar Jackson anywhere past the first quarter in that game. And I mean, obviously they got to beat Miami first. So
Right.
let's just talk some hypotheticals. Let's say you get into the 7th seed, you win your next two, you get the 7th seed. How do you like your chances against Miami?
I mean, against good teams, I don't know how much I like our chances. I just think that
You could say the
again,
same about Miami.
huh?
You could say the same about Miami.
That's true. I just Miami's defense has played pretty well since they've gotten Jalen Ramsey back.
Yeah.
Their ability to have, two good corners and a decent pass rush. And then, I mean, you're playing against an offense that scores points, so it's going to put pressure on your offense, and that's not what we want. We would want a muddied up game. I think we would want, like, the Browns or a rematch against an AFC South team. I don't know if we really want to see, or even the Chiefs, the way they've been playing. We don't really want to see the Dolphins, the Bills, I don't think, or the Ravens with how good their offenses are. I don't think that's great for us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I still think you have a shot. Obviously, you're pretty much have to beat Seattle this weekend, right?
Yeah, we have to win one of our next two, and I mean, you'd rather beat the Ravens because it's an AFC game, but yeah, I mean, we're in must-win territory. This AFC, because of all the tiebreakers we don't have to the AFC South, who are all at 8 wins right now. We almost have to get to 10. We have to almost beat them on outright wins to go through.
Yeah. Yeah. It is definitely a muddied water in the AFC. Gosh, there's literally right now 1, 2, 3 teams with double digits. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams with 8 or 9 wins. that's pretty wild.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you talk about tiebreakers because the Bengals are also sitting there at 8 wins in the same situation as the Steelers.
Yeah.
But the Bengals, 5 of their 7 losses are in division. Before the Panthers beat the Falcons this weekend, I don't know the other teams. I think the Cardinals and the Giants, maybe. But it's they were one of 4 teams that were winless in their division going into week 15. So, I mean, that sucks for the Bengals, but
Yeah.
seems like they beat just about everyone that's not in the AFC North. I mean, that leaves them 8-2 against the rest of the NFL.
Yeah. They're literally 8-2 outside of the AFC North, which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Including that little
they're almost eliminated because of that.
yeah, included that run where they beat the Jaguars, they beat the Bills, they beat the 49ers, they beat the Seahawks, they beat the Rams, but they no wins in division. They beat the Vikings, they beat the Colts.
That's insane.
Yeah. Tight loss to the Texans by 3.
Yeah, that's literally insane. So who's their last divisional game? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, I just had it up. They play at the Chiefs, then they host the Browns.
The Browns are beating them.
Yeah. I would say so.
They could beat the Chiefs.
Well, the Chiefs are what was it? The Chiefs are 3-5 in their last 8 games, so offensive struggles.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there. Any more on the Steelers right now? Obviously, you got to be happy with a win after that 3-game skid against a divisional opponent. You're still in the playoff race here. Anything else to say on them?
Yeah, I'll just say this: if we If we end up not going with Mason, I think Mitch Trubisky's off the roster after this year. I don't think he stays for his second year. If they believe Kenny's not the guy or needs more development, or they don't think that we have the quarterback on our roster, I said it the first time before, like as Ben was retiring, before we drafted a quarterback. If he's going to be paid by another team, I think the Steelers are a team that would look into Russell Wilson amidst all the turmoil in Denver. If he was released and they're paying him, I believe the Steelers could be a player in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. If they think a veteran who's been around the league, and if they feel like we're wasting the defense, young offense, I could see the Steelers being a player for Russell Wilson.
Let's take a second to talk about Russell Wilson. So he gets the exact same treatment that Derek Carr got last year, where he's due guaranteed money, but he's due a lot more guaranteed money if he were to be injured / not pass a physical. So the Broncos did literally the exact same thing. 2 games remaining with the same backup quarterback, weirdly enough. They're moving on to Jarrett Stidham. Kind of a weird situation. Russell Wilson's time as Denver is now all but likely over. The weird thing is Russ has actually been fairly good this year.
Yeah.
It's not all been on Russ. I don't think you can point to Russ and be like, he's the sole problem. Matter of fact, I'm pulling his stats up as we speak. They're better than good. They're not great, but they're better than good. He's 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks. For context, 3,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, 14 picks. Do you know who that quarterback is?
Say it again.
3,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, 14 picks.
14 picks. Who's thrown a lot of picks this year? I don't. Just give it to me.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
Gotcha.
He's thrown for less yardage, but a lot less picks, same touchdowns. Russell Wilson's also tied for the league in fourth quarter comebacks this year. So I'd argue, and now mind you, we've always been a pretty pro Russell Wilson pod since we started podding together in COVID. We've always been pro Russell Wilson. At one point, we called him the best quarterback in the league because at that point in time, in September of 2020, there was an argument for that. He's regressed a little bit, but 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, 98 QBR, that's pretty good. He's had QBRs this year, 108, 107, 133, 103, 119, 117, 106, 103. But that's better than Kenny. That's better than Mac Jones. That's better than Bailey Zappi. That's better than Mitch Trubisky. Both of us right now are like, what the hell is Denver doing? There's an issue inside the building. Obviously, head coach, quarterback aren't getting along. But the idea that Russ is still cooked, I'm struggling with. He's been 5 of his picks came in 2 games. He's got 8 on the year.
Yeah, they've scored over 30 twice in the season. But the thing is, like, one of them they lost because they allowed 35 points. They allowed 70 to the Dolphins. They allowed 31 points to the Jets. Like, the defense is a lot to blame for where their win-loss is, and it started real rocky at the beginning of the season. You know, new coach, new quarterback. But yeah, I feel like Russ has sat through it all, and I feel like it has to be a personality thing. I have to feel like Sean Payton just doesn't like Russ. And we have to remember when it all started, you know, they weren't like Sean Payton. The talk wasn't, oh, we have to agree on the quarterback or this, any of that. He said the one place he wanted to go is where he saw true alignment in philosophy, and that was Denver. So maybe with them having all that money, he probably came in and said, look, we're going to give Russ his shot, but if I don't like it, you have to give me the freedom to do what I see fit. And yeah, I just, it'd be one thing if it was like, he's so much money, but we have to rip the Band-Aid off because there's no way we can go with this guy. But like you said, Russ has been fine. He's been good.
Absolutely. And he's averaging 66% completion, okay? Like I said, 5 of his picks are in 2 games. He's only got 8 on the year, so he hasn't turned the ball over a ton. And he's averaging just a hair under 2 touchdowns a game. The running game, honestly, has been piss poor. I coming from somebody that drafted Javonte Williams thinking he would be something. He has not been good this year. Really, Denver hasn't had any breakout backs. What is it? Is it Sam Perrine or whatever? Perrine from
Samaje Perine.
Yeah, from the Bengals. He's been lackluster. He hasn't been a spark plug for them. Like, truly, at the end of the day, the Broncos' run game, which is something Sean Payton's always been pretty good with, dating back to Kamara and Deuce McAllister and all these other guys, you haven't seen that production there. And the defense, the first half of the year was horrendous. So honestly, like, this feels scapegoat. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, because only the Commanders and Cardinals have allowed more points this season on defense, and those two teams combined have 7 wins. How you've allowed 377 points on the season and are 500 in a division that, like, I don't know. I don't think it's that easy to. I thought the Broncos were trending up. They are trending up. They had that big win streak. They have a couple lumps. It's not perfect, but we formed something. Let's add a few more pieces in the offseason, and let's attack next season without a 5-game losing streak to start. Bench the final 2 weeks? Like, what? And what does that say to the locker room? You're paying a guy like that, and then you're just going to bench him for what? You're not going to give us the best chance to win, but you're going to preach for me to go out there and kill myself for W's? Yeah, like, and they're right there. They could make the playoffs.
They can literally make the playoffs still.
It would take some help, sure, but you're sitting there. You host the Chargers, which they're on backups, and then you're at the Raiders, which they didn't have a passing yard for 3 quarters and still beat the Chiefs. Like, if the Chiefs don't take care of business, the Broncos beat the Chiefs. I don't know what their total overall divisional record is. Yeah, they beat the Chargers.
They're 2-2.
And lost to the Chiefs. Yeah, they lost to the Raiders the first time around. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's a weird time to just give up on the season. Well, your owner is going to save $39 million, but.
Yeah, I think we mostly agree here. It is very weird. And, the Patriots, if they were to keep Bill Belichick and there's some sort of, we'll transition right into New England here. If there was some sort of succession plan that Belichick has, like, to stay the head coach, maybe he's willing to give up GM duties or appoint certain people for different things. Bill Belichick has always loved Russell Wilson, and New England is either number 1 or number 2 in cap space next year. Over $100 million to spend. You'd imagine that maybe rather than drafting a guy, they're okay with protecting him / drafting a wide receiver. There's 2 elite left tackles in this draft. They're, in my opinion, not just one. Everybody talks about Marvin. There's 2 elite wide receivers coming out. Keenan Coleman, in my opinion, is number 2, and he's an absolute dog.
Rome Odunze. You got
Neighbors
the kid
too,
from LSU.
Yep, Neighbors. There's some studs, but for me, Marvin Harrison and Keenan Coleman are both literally can't misses. They're both great. Like, New England is able to not draft a quarterback. I know that's crazy, and everyone's like, I'm not even saying Bailey Zappi. I think there's a case that he could stay on the roster and be that serviceable backup or a 1-year bridge. But Russell Wilson makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams, and we'll talk landing spots probably at another time. Let me just dive right into New England. Once again, New England, weirdly enough, beats Denver, Russell Wilson in Denver. And I went to the Patriots-Browns game last year, which was the game after Mac Jones had gotten injured. And going into the week, we weren't sure if Mac was going to play or if Bailey Zappi was going to get the start. And Bailey Zappi got the start. He became the first quarterback in NFL history, the first rookie quarterback in NFL history, for his first true road start to win and throw X amount of touchdowns or whatever. And he looked great at that moment. I'm like, wow, Bailey can actually play. The very next week, he destroyed the Lions too. And then there was the weird Monday Night Football debacle with Mac Jones and bringing Zappi. And Zappi never really seen the field after that Monday night. They rolled with Mac. And then going into this offseason, I thought to myself, like, I wonder if they're going to do some sort of quarterback competition. And Belichick kind of said there was one, and Mac seemed to have won that. But every time you see Mac Jones go out there, he was bad. And even in his best games, if you took Mac Jones's 10 career best statistical performances, he has 2 wins in those games. So one from a come behind against the Texans and one against the Bills. All his other bangers, if you will, losses. It's just the production never turns into wins. Bailey Zappi, you look at he has now started 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he started 5 career games now. I think he's 3-2 or 4 and maybe he's 6. I think he's got 4 career wins. He might be 4-2 in 6 career starts. Regardless, Zappi, in all of his wins, in the 4 wins, he's thrown for 250 and 2 touchdowns. Like, he's been very productive in these games. You know, there's something there. It might literally be as little as, like, the locker room.
He's
just
4-2.
What's that?
He's 4-2 as a starter.
He's 4-2. And do you happen to have the game log or not really?
I do not have the game log.
Okay. Yeah, I
got it right here, actually.
Do you? The games he's starting, he's playing, he's been super productive.
I don't have the scores, but it was, let's go in order from earliest. New England versus Detroit, win. New England at Cleveland, win. New England versus the Chargers, loss. At Pittsburgh, win. Versus Kansas City, loss. At Denver, win.
So in these wins this season, I don't have last year. This year alone, at Pittsburgh, 240, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. W. Okay? Against Kansas City, he wasn't great. He completed 74%, but only 181 touchdown, 1 pick. So not great. But then he plays Denver. He throws for 250 again, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 75%. That can win in this league. That wins. If you tell me your guy throws 75%, 250, 2 touchdowns, no picks, I'm willing to bet 90% of the time you get the dub. That wins. And he does this a lot.
Yeah.
You know, this year he was asked to play in limited roles coming from behind in shitty situations, and he was trying to force. Now that he's had the starts, he hasn't been forcing, and you've seen production.
Yeah, he has multiple touchdowns in 3 of the 6 starts, a touchdown in 5 of the 6. He's never thrown multiple interceptions. The one outlier game was against the Chargers where he was 13 for 25 for only 141 yards. But again, no touchdown, no pick. And the 2 games that he lost, he was sacked 5 times for 32 yards of loss and 4 times for 26 yards of loss. In every game that he was sacked 2 or less times, they won. His career rating as a starter is 102.7. There's a 118, 117, 115, and again, that game against the Chargers is 68, so it's dragging it down. So, I mean, he's played well. I mean, his career completion percentage is 70%. And again, I say 70. The game against the Chargers, it was 52. Like that outlier game against the Chargers that they lost. It looks like the whole team just got beat.
Yeah, I just think that Bailey Zappi is serviceable. I think that's just where we're at. I think if given the opportunity, I'm not saying he's freaking Brock Purdy. I'm not even saying he's Daniel Jones. But I think he could be something for X amount of games so that you don't draft a quarterback this year and you're able to still build out your roster, because he is the ultimate game manager. He's not going to go out there and throw 6 touchdowns. I mean, it's just not what you're getting. But if you happen to draft a guy in the 3rd round and he hits, at least you didn't waste a top 2 pick because you have something serviceable. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm hoping that Zappi, first off, continues to win. I'm rooting for wins. I don't watch football games to watch my team lose. I'm just not going to do that. I had the game on and I'm watching, and at times it looked solid, at times it didn't, and they get the dub, and it's just like I'm gonna cheer for that because it's still winning. I invest my time in this team, and I want to see him turn around, and I want to see Belichick stay. I don't want to see Belichick go. Do I think that Belichick needs to self-evaluate himself as the GM? Let me ask you this. If Belichick was in charge of the GM, would he have fired him already?
I know. I think the head coach is fine.
Correct. Yeah.
I think, yes. So I don't think the GM would have fired the head coach because his coaching job is saving his GM job.
Yeah, but here's what I mean. Like, if Belichick was in charge of both the head coach, let's say it's a neutral party. It's coach is A, GM's B. If Belichick was in charge of them, knowing Belichick, he moves off guys early, lack of production, he would fire the GM. Agreed or disagree?
Yes.
1,000%. In that he is the GM. So you have to have some self-evaluation and realize it's a production league. And Belichick, of all people, knows this. You just have to move on. It's time. You have to move on from yourself at that spot. Yeah. There has never been a doubt in my mind that this man can still coach because I see it every week. We do not lose ball games because of coaching. We lose it because of lack of talent. And that's Belichick's fault. But we continue to get riddled with injuries. Our number one corner, our number one pass rusher, this past week, our number one safety, our number one running back's been out for multiple weeks. And by the way, I can't believe that Zeke Elliott at this point in his career has tolerated how bad the team is, but his spirits have still been high and he's been competing, which is shocking. His character for me, no bias, not just because he plays for New England. Where I thought Zeke was and where he is now, like, completely switched for me. Like, I always kind of thought he was kind of a greedy guy and selfish. We're paying him decent, but holy hell, like, he got paid less than Dalvin Cook. He's been a bazillion times more productive than Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, and I know, like, a lot of it was going around the internet. Like, how did Cowboys fans feel when Tony Pollard had what looked like a walk-in touchdown and got stuffed at the goal line versus the Dolphins? And Zeke's over here hurdling people in the Denver Broncos game, just like it really was a 1-2 punch, but you just, you move off of him, and it's crazy how he's playing pretty well. I mean, no one said Zeke's just like, if anything, he looks better than he's looked the last 2 years at the Cowboys.
Yeah, he has. He has, to his credit.
Yeah.
Obviously, season's over. We're not making the playoffs. There's nothing more to really elaborate on, but it is nice to keep getting these W's. I know it's hurting draft position, but luckily other teams have been winning too. Like the worst team in the league right now is obviously still the Panthers, but everybody else I think has at least 3 wins. So, yeah, like right now, the Patriots have 4 wins. That's the least in the AFC. And then in the NFC, Panthers 2, Cardinals 3, and then Commanders 4. So New England's basically tied for 3rd or 4th right now.
Yeah, right now the draft order, New England would have the 4th. But something to keep an eye on if you're a Patriots fan. Obviously, it would be tough to move on from Bill Belichick. But I don't think they would just move on or like fire or release. I believe they would talk to other teams, sort of like what happened with Sean Payton, and they would ask for a trade for Bill Belichick. Now, if the Chargers did want him to be the GM and head coach and go over there, and they already have a quarterback and all the talent, they think they just need a coach, you could potentially get the Chargers' current 6th overall pick. And for Bill Belichick, you could have 2 picks in the top 7 come this NFL draft to do, whatever you want to do with. So that's always on the table too.
Yeah. Moving on here. 49ers Ravens. So I asked you last week at their apex who could kind of beat the Niners. And the Ravens were on that list. And the Ravens went to San Francisco and laid it down on them. And there's going to be a lot of takeaways here. Brock Purdy throws 4 interceptions. I got lots of opinions. I'll let you start yours.
Yeah, I thought he had 2 bad interceptions just going off that stat. The deflected one by one corner when Marlon Humphrey caught it was crazy. The one where he got hit, I think it was just a story really of the Ravens defense overwhelmed Brock Purdy. You know, sometimes you really do forget that Brock Purdy's in year 2. And on top of that, it's like Kyle Shanahan's got like what, 1 win ever if he's trailing going into the fourth quarter by like 7 or 8 or more. 8 or more, it's a wrap. 7 or more, he has like maybe 2 wins. So there is this whole thing that the 49ers usually do get out early and, you know, dominate you from in front. But the other aspect of this is Lamar's 20-1 versus NFC teams that don't see him very often. He's a shock with how fast he is. That's why I've actually done pretty well with predictions of like when I say the Steelers are going to beat the Ravens, because like that X factor is neutralized a little bit in terms of we have so much experience against it. 20-1 versus NFC teams is absolutely crazy. But I just thought obviously Lamar's a difference maker. I mean, he made Fred Warner look stupid a couple times. He ran away from Chase Young and Bosa when it looked like they had him. Lamar put on a clinic. He played fantastic. The receivers weren't even that great for him. Isaiah Flowers is a stud as a rookie. We can talk about that. You got Justin Tucker, so anytime they got down there and failed, you know, free 3 points. Lamar's a difference maker, and that defense kind of just showed to the world why they are who they are. And the record for any team to have 14 plus wins, 14-point plus wins in a season, I believe is 5. The Ravens have 7 of them, and it's against all teams that are currently over 500. They have 7.
I said this. I don't think I said on the pod. The Niners, in every big game they've played this year, they've destroyed that team. So have the Ravens.
Yeah.
Every big team they played, they beat them. They destroyed them. And in this one, something had to give, and it was the Niners that destroyed the Ravens. Or, sorry, the Ravens that destroyed the Niners. My biggest takeaway, first off, couple of points here. A, Brock did not play great. He didn't play great. And as you alluded to, and thank you for bringing it up, this is year 2. Okay? And not only is it year 2, it's year 2 of a guy that was drafted last in the draft. Drafted very last pick, Mr. Relevant, was never supposed to be the starter. Okay? Thrust into a role that's probably like the best situation that any quarterback could ask for. And we have not seen him struggle often, but he has at times, especially in scenarios in which he trails, okay? But I do find it funny that all these people that don't want to announce Brock Purdy as MVP, last I checked, let me just real quick, I want to pull these numbers up. Just a second here. All right, Christian McCaffrey goes for 103 yards and a touchdown and also 6 catches for 28 yards. Pretty good stats. They got blown out. You need Brock Purdy to play well. Christian McCaffrey's not carrying this team by himself. Brock Purdy, it is a direct correlation. When he plays bad, this team is not good. They do not win despite Brock Purdy. They win because of Brock Purdy. It's more apparent after this game. Now, mind you, you're like, well, Jeff, he did throw 4 picks. Yeah, he threw 4 picks. He wasn't great. You can't carry, Christian McCaffrey's not carrying this ball club. He is their best player probably, but they win because of Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, 18 of 32, 255, 4 picks, and he was sacked twice. He was miserable. But even Sam Darnold came in and threw a pick against this defense. They picked off this team 5 times. Like, this is a damn good Ravens team. I think that's really what this comes about. And as you alluded to, and I'm glad you brought it up, maybe it's not Brock Purdy that can't come from behind. Maybe Kyle Shanahan isn't very good about coming from behind. Kyle Shanahan, as you just said, I'm going to give you the exact stat. Okay? He is, and I wrote it down here, Kyle Shanahan, 63 and 49 in his career. That is his career total. 38 of those 49 losses or when he's down 8 or more in the fourth quarter, he's lost every time. If it is 8 or more points in the fourth quarter, it's a wrap. They have nothing to come back from. Now, you could make the argument, well, Jeff, the Niners haven't really had elite quarterback play. I'm still on the fence that Brock Purdy is that guy. Okay? And my biggest reason is, and I said this last week too, and I've said this before, Brock Purdy, it seems like when he starts to struggle, it comes undone very quickly. Of the 4 games he threw picks in, 4 games he threw picks in, 3 of them are multiple picks. 2 picks, 4 picks. They come in bunches with him.
I wonder if Kyle Shanahan, because he does seem like the type of guy, you throw a pick, he gets frustrated, and instead of motivating you to shake it off, get back in, it seems like Kyle's going to be like, what were you doing? Why are you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree. He does look angry on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think with the MVP, with it being so close this year, with Lamar having a case for it, and then in the head-to-head, what happened, Lamar going for 252, 2 touchdowns and the rushing stuff, I don't know who's going to win the MVP. Josh Allen is over 40 touchdowns again, could be over 50. He's got time. There's just, if they win their division and come back, there's so much that can go into it. It's a fun year for it. But yeah, Brock had a bad game. It spilled over. And sometimes it happens. It might hurt his MVP chances, but it doesn't hurt me from saying, yeah, next week 49ers are probably going to win by 20.
They're favored by 13. They're going to slaughter.
Who are they playing?
Washington.
Oh, well, okay. But yeah, just to go over it, the Ravens have a 16-point win against the Texans, 25-point win at the Browns, 32-point win against the Lions, a 34-point win against the Seahawks, 14-point win against the Bengals, a 16-point win at the Jags, next week 14-point win at the Niners. So they've blown out the 49ers, the Jaguars, the Browns, the Seahawks, the Lions, and the Texans.
Lamar has every case to be the MVP. His stats aren't what Josh Allen's are, but let's be honest here. He's played the best quarterback. He's played the best at the quarterback position outside of Brock Purdy or Josh Allen this season. Those are the 3.
The only thing that would keep him from getting, I think, at this point, especially if he goes and beats Miami, is A, they punish him for if they rest him the last game of the year, or B, they just decide when they're voting they want someone who hasn't won it before.
Yeah. I think
it's going to be the best team, probably with the 1 seed, with great quarterback play, blowing out teams. It's going to be tough not to give it to Lamar.
He has 19 touchdown passes this year, and he has, I'm looking up his rushing. Hang on here, because that should come into play. Yeah, he has absolutely 5 rushing touchdowns, and he's right on pace with what he normally averages. He's going to hit well over 800. If he plays one more game, he's hitting over 800 yards. So, he's rushed for 1,000 before and 1,200. So, he's been dominant in that case. When he won the MVP, he rushed for 1,200. It was hard to not give it to him. But 5 additional touchdowns. He's only got 24 touchdowns right now. It's not that crazy.
No. But
how many guys are eating because of Lamar?
If he has 2 more games and between rushing and throwing gets 6 touchdowns, he'll have 30 touchdowns. Now, he did have the thing where his pick numbers might not be high, but he's lost 8 fumbles this year. So
that's
maybe
off the course.
Yeah, they still may go with somebody else, but either way, tremendous what the Ravens have done this season. And then the question will come back, can he do it in the postseason? Because I think he only has 1 postseason win in his career, even though he's got the MVP and the rushing and all that. So this team looks ready to do it. They got the kicker, they got the punter, they got the coach, they got the defense. It's on Lamar now.
We're going to talk some college football playoff, but before we do, I want to hit one more NFL topic. Kansas City. So last year, going into the season, we both predicted they'd miss the playoffs. what I was envisioning is exactly what we see right now. I was a year and a half early. Okay. And Travis Kelce, call it whatever you want. He is aging. He is old. Has been a shell of what Travis Kelce normally is. They don't have elite wide receiver weapons. They didn't last year either. Unfortunately, Travis Kelce had such a great year, it masked what was a massive flaw. Now, while their defense is much improved and it's the best defense Mahomes has played in, it has literally, that's honestly what's masked them being to the point they're at right now. This is not a good football team. Patrick Mahomes is still fine. He does enough. But these wide receiver weapons are not good. They are ass. And I'm telling you right now, this team is going to get in the playoffs because their division is so bad. It's bad. Their division's ass. I think they'll get bounced at home in a playoff game against the Colts. I could see the Steelers beating them. I don't know. I don't love the Browns. Oh, my God. If they got the Browns, they would cry. They wouldn't score. I mean, I don't know. I don't love this Kansas City team. New England hung with them for 3 quarters. I just don't think that this team is anything to be afraid of. And the things that I've been saying for several years, wait till Mahomes' contract kicks in. They're not paying anybody on the offense side of the ball. Travis Kelce isn't even that high paid. Like, you have a good offensive line, but all your weapons suck. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think that like a lot of Patrick's like turnovers and mistakes are when he has the ball in the pocket or scrambling around for 7-8 seconds because his wide receivers can't get open. And, you know, Travis was doing great and the Chiefs were winning. They were like 6-1 or something like that. And he's, you know, his ankle started to flare up. And like you said, he's aging. And then it just kind of at some point, teams just said, we're just going to double, we're going to chip and then double Travis Kelce every play. And their wide receivers have dropped touchdowns that would win the game. They've lined up off sides that would win the game. I think that's something to keep in mind too. You know, you want to be playing your best football going into the postseason. And they are a wide open dropped pass and a lineup offsides away from being 11-4 right now as a football team and the narrative being different. But the same mistakes are happening from the same position. So it's not like it's one thing here or a defensive guy or this guy slipped. It's like these things aren't being corrected. And the Chiefs they're a good team, but like they're leaning more towards average than great. They're not going to blow teams out anymore. That like I don't think they have the fear. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can draw up all the plays they want, but if receivers can't beat their guy, they have no real fear of deep ball over the top because teams can get pressure on Mahomes. They don't have time to go for those deep routes. I still think like the defense is unbelievable for the Chiefs. I mean, the Raiders beat the Chiefs without Aiden O'Connell had 0 passing yards in the second, third, and fourth quarter. He had 63 passing yards in the first quarter, not a single yard the rest of the game. 2 defensive touchdowns by the Raiders. It's just like the Chiefs have to take care of the ball and survive by their defense, but they're forcing turnovers. They're having turnovers. No, I do not think the Chiefs, like I feel much better about the Dolphins. I feel much better about the Bills. I feel much better about the Ravens. Like, I think the Chiefs are at best this year the 4th team, and they might get 1, but the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has yet to play a road playoff game outside of a Super Bowl. So, the AFC Championship this year, I expect Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes to not be in. And I don't know. I'm kind of excited for it. You know, a little bit of Chiefs fatigue, but they clearly need a weapon. Now, you could get ahead of yourself and be like, okay, what do they need? And it's like, all right, if the Bucs don't re-sign Mike Evans, okay, the Chiefs could be back. But like, it's going to take something in that wide receiver room to change my opinion that this offense isn't that good. But again, 20 points can beat you with the way their defense is playing.
See, the thing is, though, is like we both talked about Mike Evans making a ton of sense last year, and they didn't go get him at the deadline when you have to imagine he would have been available. DK Metcalf is one that I think makes a ton of sense for them because Seattle just drafted a first-round wide receiver. They still got Lockett. DK makes some solid money. They can move off of them. They want to be a ground and pound team anyway. Like, DK makes a ton of sense there. DeAndre Hopkins they could have had. They could have had DeAndre Hopkins, and they didn't try to make him because they believed in Patrick Mahomes could basically make water out of wine. Sorry, wine out of water. Right. I'm sorry, but
it's magic.
Yeah, truthfully, at the end of the day, this team's reality is they're not very good offensively. And they try to do something that New England had a ton of success with, and that is use a bazillion running backs and incorporate them into the offense. And I think they do it as good of a job as anybody in the whole league, but not to the level that New England was doing it in their successful times. It's just the production's just not quite there. And I think part of the problem is Travis Kelce doesn't necessarily block like Gronk did. Travis Kelce also all of a sudden can't get open because he's their sole weapon. It'd be one thing if they had one more guy, and it seems like Rashid Rice could potentially be that, and then all of a sudden he's not. It's like at some point, could it click? Yeah, I guess it could. But at that point, is Travis Kelce does he have enough in the tank? I don't know. Like, obviously, I'm not ruling the Chiefs out, but I can't envision them winning multiple playoff games. Maybe one, maybe the wild card round. I don't see them going into Miami, into Buffalo,
or Baltimore.
Into what's that?
Baltimore.
For sure as hell not Baltimore. Matter of fact, that's one team they've avoided all year is Baltimore. They haven't had to play them. I think they would run them out the gym.
Yeah, and the thing is the Chiefs have 2 games left, obviously. They have 1 win above the Bills. No, they don't. They're both 9-6, and the Bills hold the tiebreaker.
Yep.
And like I said, I know this is kind of sidebar, but if the Dolphins lose to the Ravens and the Bills win this week, the final week, Bills against the Dolphins, if the Bills win, they take the AFC East. And you know what happens? The Chiefs could find themselves as the 4 seed and the Dolphins as the 5 seed. Or vice versa. The Chiefs is the 4 and the Bills is the 5 seed. That looks like it's going to be the first round matchup. The second place finisher out of the AFC East could potentially be going to Arrowhead in the first round. They've got the Dolphins or Bills right off the bat.
Obviously, Buffalo they're the kind of the Dallas Cowboys, the current Dallas Cowboys of the AFC. They blow everybody out when it matters most. They whiff. But I would like Buffalo heading into Kansas City or hosting Kansas City. I'd like them beating it. I think Buffalo is trending up. A second ago, you just said it. They're playing their best ball when it matters. And KC looks like they're literally falling apart at the seams with their 1 win being over the 4-win Patriots.
I'm also wrong because if the Chiefs win 1 more game, it's likely that the AFC South winner will be the 4 seed. So I was.
The AFC South winner is all but the 4 seed, right?
They're all at 8 wins. So if one of them wins out, they can get to 10. So if the Chiefs lose out, they would be above them. I don't know if any of them have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm being unfair. So They've lost to the Raiders, the Bills, and the Packers. In the last month, they are 1-4 or 1-3. December is when you should be playing your best football. The Chiefs should know this better than anybody.
Yeah.
And a month ago, they beat the Raiders 31-17 and then couldn't move the ball on them. They're actually, if we want to be real technical, they're 2-4 in their last 6.
They're 3-5 in their last 8. They started 6-1. and now they're 9-6. So they're 3-5 in their last 8 games. The last 2 months of football, throw a bye in there. They're 3-5.
They lose more than they win. And that's because they're not very good.
And like you said, if we want to go back, we said they're 3-5 in their last 8. They beat the Patriots, they beat the Raiders, and they beat the Dolphins, and it was on that defense. I believe it was a defensive touchdown. They were up 21-0 at half, I believe. And that was in Frankfurt, Germany, so who knows how that impacts different teams. But they did beat the Dolphins in Germany, and then it's been Raiders Patriots are their only 2 wins outside of that.
Yeah, I'm just not impressed. And this is the team that I thought I was predicting last year, and obviously they overcame that. And that's credit to them, credit to their coaching staff, credit to Patrick Mahomes, credit to Travis Kelce. Because Juju Smith was their number 1 receiver, and they made that work. So credit to them. But this year they don't have a number 1 receiver. It's very apparent. And Travis Kelce isn't carrying like he did. Are you ready?
Sure.
So I want your official predictions for both games. Whether or not you're going to be betting the games, just give it to me all, okay? Michigan, Bama, Rose Bowl, 5:00. Michigan is currently favored. I am pulling up what the odds are, unless you have them in front of you.
I do not have FanDuel in front of me.
So I recently started using ESPN Bet.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Did you take advantage of the free $200 or anything?
Oh, I mean, I used them. I don't know if you'd say I took advantage of them.
Yeah, same.
I swung for the fences with them. I turned them into $64.
To be fair, 2 of mine are still alive. I threw just like some what I feel to be profitable bets. But one of them is a jinx bet, at least I hope. I currently have $50 on Alabama to beat Michigan, money line.
Right.
Okay. And then I have $50 on the Niners to win the Super Bowl. But enough of that. So the current spread of Michigan and Alabama is Michigan -1.5 on ESPN Bet. Okay. Take away your predictions on this one. If you're betting the game, what you're betting, what you think. Take it away.
Yeah, I think Michigan does a better job at not turning the ball over. They were also number 1 in the FBS in least amount of penalties against per game. They play a clean game. I believe they will give up some rushing yards to Jalen Milroe, but at the end of the day, I trust J.J. McCarthy a little bit more. I think they keep Alabama off the sideline. I think they control the game. I think maybe they start to get a little passive. I think they get a lead. I think they get a lead maybe by 10 to 13 points. Alabama starts really going 5 wide, spreading them. Jalen Miller running around. I think they kind of close the gap a bit. But in the end, I think Michigan holds them off. I don't think it's going to be tremendously high scoring. I like 27-17. I like Michigan by 7 to 10 points. I think Jalen Miller's got better, but at the end of the day, this is the best defense in the nation. And I don't think Jalen Milroe's arm talent is good enough. I think they stopped the run. And in terms of Michigan, 2 of their last 3 games, they played 2 of the best defenses in the NCAA, and they were able to move the ball with a quarterback who was injured more than people think, in my opinion. So I like Michigan to take care of business. I like them to win the Rose Bowl. I know a lot of people are so skeptical. Bama gets it done when the time comes, and Nick Saban, but you've got, I would rather have J.J. McCarthy than Jalen Milroe. Jim Harbaugh's just as good of a coach, even if he doesn't have what Nick Saban has, in the past. Jim Harbaugh's a fantastic coach. I give the edge on defense to Michigan. It's going to be a tremendous game, but I believe Michigan has the ball last, maybe up 3 or 4, scores a touchdown. Again, I like them by about 8, 9, 10 points. Little over 1 possession. I think they win the turnover battle by 2. It's either 2-0 or 3-1. I will be betting Michigan minus anything under a field goal.
So, I like a lot of what you said. I think the X factor is Michigan's defense. The other X factor is honestly the talent gap. Is Alabama just so talented that they're going to step up for this game and overwhelm Michigan? It doesn't feel like this team could be overwhelmed, but maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong the last 2 years, I do think this team's different than the 21 team and the 22 team. I think they're just literally more talented. They're more physical. I do think that they're more disciplined, as you alluded to. I think Michigan can win this game 24-20. I think it's going to be close. I do think that the biggest struggle for Michigan is going to be consistently running the football, but I think they can absolutely attack Alabama with their two tight ends, A.J. Barner, Colson Loveland. I think those are like the biggest offensive X factors. And while Donovan Edwards has basically been a shell of himself all year, he's a big game player. I'm predicting a 50-yard house call at some point. I think Donovan will play one of his best games of the whole year and maybe take advantage of an opportunity that he deserves. So, all right, your turn. Texas, Washington. This is the Sugar Bowl. Okay, Texas currently favored by 4, over under 63.5. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm just going to be straight homerish, and I'll wear it if I'm wrong. But I think this is going to be the best offensive line and defensive line that Washington has faced. I know that they revolve around play action pass and Michael Penix doing really well. They have a tremendous wide receivers. They'll get some yards. Texas's pass defense has not been great, but we've been without Ryan Watts, our best corner for the last month of football. He will be playing in this bowl game. The defense makes big plays when big plays are needed. I think we're in Michael Penix's face all day. They'll get some big plays, they'll get some points, but I think Texas will too. I think this is a neutral perspective dream for a lot of people. Two offenses that I think will have a lot of success. I think with the game being in Louisiana, being in New Orleans, it'll be a heavy orange crowd. I think it'll just be more Texas than Washington. I think that's kind of an unfair advantage on the location of the game, but they're predetermined, so what can you do? If Texas has one or less turnovers, which I think they can do, the way Quinn's playing, the way this offense is playing, I look for Texas to win this game pretty handily. I think they're favored by 4.5. I think that's a conservative effort because Washington's played so well. But Washington has had to win 9 one-score games. I think Texas breaks this game open. I don't think Washington's defense is good enough. 34-24, I'll take Texas by 10.
Yeah, I do think that Texas, while they have been exposed to air raid passing teams this year, this is not the same style teams that Washington has played. The best comp would be Oregon. But even Oregon, I think, kind of lacks the defensive line that Texas has. While their offensive line's been good, it's probably not as good as Texas's. And Texas, when they play their best ball, it seems like they're probably the best team in the country. Will they play their best ball? Remains to be seen. I just don't love what I've seen out of Washington the last month outside of their games against Oregon. They played Oregon really well, but the rest of their games were not great. I think Texas is probably just too big, too physical, probably too much for them. The two things that I could see, because I do think Michigan wins, but if somebody blows somebody out, I think it's Alabama and Michigan. I could see Washington winning, but if somebody blows somebody out, I think Texas could absolutely rout Washington like bad, like 41-10. The quarterback play of Michael Penix has to be the difference in the X factor, because if he's able to just light you guys up, it's going to be a long day for Texas. I just don't see that happening.
I believe that Washington, although they are 13-0, I believe they're the only one of the four teams that doesn't have multiple ways they can win.
Yeah, they have one way to win.
I believe the other 3 teams have multiple ways they can win if something's not working. I look at Texas. They've played other great teams, good offenses this year. Bama, Oklahoma being the 2 that come to mind. The only game we lost was by 4 and arguably the last play of the game. In a game we lost the turnover battle 3-0, and that doesn't count a turnover on downs on fourth down. Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Jatavion Sanders. We have some of the best weapon groups in the NCAA. Quinn Ewers pulling the trigger, Sark calling the plays. We have an NFL kicker. I just like Texas. I like where they're at. 4.5 is a pretty good number. I was going to bet Texas anything under 7.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, obviously a Michigan-Texas Bowl would be fun for us, fun for football. I mean, Michigan-Texas national championship, that screams college football.
It immediately sets up the rematch in week 2 of next season, puts a little bit extra juice on that.
Yeah, which that game already is going to be massive, but holy hell, you're right. Immediately makes that college. It's already going to be College Game Day's premier location, but just like that game looks incredible. So, especially with both quarterbacks looming to return.
Yeah, Quinn's already announced he's returning.
I don't buy that.
Why?
If Texas wins the national championship and Quinn Ewers is an absolute dog and throws 5 touchdowns and 5 touchdowns, he's going to the draft.
Wants to win the SEC. It could be something for him. I'm not saying it should be, but he's already announced he's coming back, like confirmed, and that's why Malik Murphy transferred out of Texas, went in the transfer portal.
No, and I understand all that. I do.
Oh, you think he could change his mind if he wins the national championship?
And no Texas fan would blame him.
Well, right, but I don't know.
Hey, you committed to us, but you literally just made yourself a top 3 pick. I'm sorry. If Quinn Ewers goes out and throws 5 tutties and wins the Natty, he leapfrogs Drake May potentially. Just like that. This is literally how draft works. Joe Burrow got drafted off one season. Quinn Ewers obviously hasn't had a Joe Burrow season, but geez Louise, guys like this literally. Cardell Jones got drafted off of a college football playoff.
Well, I do think there's also something to the fact that people do forget that Quinn is 20 years old.
I know, I get it.
He may want the. I mean, it could come down to he forewent his senior year of high school to pursue football. But could he want an education? Could it be the Texas education that's keeping him? Could it be the fact that he's only 20? Could it be the fact that a lot of people around him are telling him that scouts like to base quarterbacks off 25 games? He's only if he wins the national championship, it's only 21, but he could still go. Got to clean up some turnover issues. Maybe he just loves Steve Sarkisian. It seems like he's grown up a whole hell of a lot under Sark. Maybe he just loves putting up the horns. I just think that with NIL, he
thinks he has a better team next year.
Yeah, and with NIL, I mean, going to the SEC, maybe he would just love to play in the Southern Eastern Conference. The SEC. We play. I think we play Georgia next year. There's just a lot of incentives, and again, with NIL, it could incentivize players to come back. We don't know how much he's making, or you say he could go to the draft, but if he throws 5 touchdowns in back-to-back games and wins a natty, his NIL money shoots up. And they're already saying if you look at next year, it's not Penix, Caleb Williams, Drake May. Like there's Jaden Daniels. There's kind of like people would have to come out of the woodwork. He would be a kind of a front runner from the get-go and would really have to screw it up to not be a top draft pick going into the following year.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And maybe it's an ego thing too. Hey, I kept the golden boy on the bench for a whole year.
Yeah, but it could also be an ego reducer when that golden boy beats him out in spring practice.
True. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it is weird that he like committed so hard to saying he's coming back. I just don't see him switching, but he could. He absolutely could. Yep. I guess it is on the board that he could.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just excited to watch Alabama versus Washington in the national championship. That would suck. That would be stupid. But no, I do believe it. I believe Texas is going to win. I believe Michigan's going to win. And I believe we are going to get the podcast bowl here come January 9th. I think it'd be, or 8th. Be really cool.
That'd be a good podcast preview.
That'd be super fun.
All right, folks. You know, tune in next week to see if me and Brad officially hate each other and how we, you know, predict each of our teams to lose after just boosting up the other ones just now. But hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. Obviously, if you're sticking with us here, thank you for your support. Have a happy New Year, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.